Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 36 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation J.E.W.E.L.S. We begin this segment in the Sugarh deserts, where we see a robed traveler riding on a camel and heading towards an area where many tents have been set up. This traveler is wearing a blue robe and a headpiece that is mostly red but also has a white cloth that hides the traveler's face. So we, the viewers, do not see the traveler's face just yet, but the outfit's color scheme does provide us with a clue. In any case, the traveler arrives at this area where many tents have been set up, and we see that the different individuals at the different tents are all selling jewels of some kind. Eventually, the traveler stops at one particular tent, a tent owned by a man named Sugarh. Sugarh compliments the traveler for choosing his tent to purchase jewels at, and he shows the jewels that he has for sale, which are all on a table just outside of his tent. The traveler, however, smacks the jewels off of the table and onto the ground. Many nearby kids take the opportunity to eat the jewels. Yes, these jewels are actually candy jewels. Sugarh is not offended by the traveler's actions, however. Sugarh actually figures that the traveler must be seeking much more valuable candy jewels, so Sugarh invites the traveler to enter his tent, and he proceeds to show the traveler the most valuable candy jewel that he has, the Blurpleberry Supreme. Sugarh figures that maybe this traveler has heard of the legends about the Blurpleberry Supreme, and the traveler does answer by saying that she is aware of the Blurpleberry Supreme because Sugarh stole it from her. The traveler removes her headpiece, and we see that the traveler is none other than Number 5. Sugarh is surprised to see Number 5. He admits that he didn't think that Number 5 would travel as far as the Sugarh deserts to reclaim the Blurpleberry Supreme. But, Number 5 responds by questioning, Number 5 questions Sugarh about why he stole the Blurpleberry Supreme in the first place, because she says something along the lines of how good candy will become sour if it's taken in greed, or something along those lines. And Sugarh, however, dismisses this as superstitious nonsense, saying that he won't let superstitious nonsense get in the way of him making money. Number 5, however, says that she was saving the Blurpleberry Supreme for a special occasion, and she intends to fulfill saving it for that special occasion. But Sugarh has two of his minions try to attack Number 5 using licorice whips. Number 5, though, is easily able to defeat Sugarh and his minions, and eventually Sugarh is knocked out by the end of the fight, and he drops the Blurpleberry Supreme. Number 5 not only reclaims the Blurpleberry Supreme, but she also takes one of the licorice whips with her. As Number 5 exits Sugarh's tent, she has to cover her eyes because the sun rays are especially bright right now. This gives some soldiers with candy weapons a chance to pull out a candy whip to trip Number 5 so that she'll drop the Blurpleberry Supreme. The soldiers then proceed to surround Number 5. Yes, there's many soldiers with candy weapons, and there's also a candy tank. Soon enough, a kid with a monocle picks up the Blurpleberry Supreme, and he knows who Number 5 is, and Number 5 knows who this kid is as well. The kid's name is Heinrich Von Marzipan, although Number 5 calls him by the nickname Heiny, which Heinrich is not amused by. Heinrich is also angry at number 5 because of an incident that happened when they previously crossed paths. From what little is said about this incident, the incident took place in Guatemala, and it involved a bag of sacred golden caramels, or caramels if you prefer, potato. But in any case, Heinrich is intrigued by number 5's interest in the Blurpleberry Supreme, and like what she said to Al Sugarh, number 5 says that she's saving it for a special occasion. Heinrich says that he also intends to use the Blurpleberry Supreme for a special occasion too. He wants to use the Blurpleberry Supreme to acquire the treasure of candy within the tomb of King 2 Tons of Candy. Number 5, though, thinks that this is a bad idea because the tomb is supposed to be cursed. Heinrich, however, dismisses this as superstitious nonsense, and he says that nothing will stop him from claiming the treasure of candy within the tomb. He proclaims himself to be the greatest candy... Yes, he calls himself the greatest candy hunter in the world, and he insists that he's better than number 5. In a mocking way, Heinrich says that he will pay number 5 for the Blurpleberry Supreme by tossing her a bag of candy, but he smugly comments that the candy in the bag is sugar-free. Number 5, however, uses this to her advantage. She tosses the bag of candy into the air so that when it drops back down to the ground, all the candy will spill out of the bag. And this causes many kids, the same kids from earlier, to appear and try to eat the candy, which distracts Heinrich and the soldiers. And after the kids leave, after taking the candy, Heinrich realizes that number 5 escaped. And so he orders his soldiers to search for number 5 while he goes off to King 2 Tons of Candy's tomb. So Heinrich enters the candy tank and heads off for the tomb. But what he doesn't realize is that number 5 actually is hiding on the tank. Or yes, she's in the back of the candy tank, and she took advantage of that distraction so that she could follow Heinrich to the tomb. So eventually, Heinrich arrives at King 2 Tons of Candy's tomb, and he proceeds to enter the tomb and use the Blurpleberry Supreme like a key. Yes, there are several locks that are shaped like the Blurpleberry Supreme, so Heinrich has to just place the candy jewel into the locks to open up the doors. Eventually, Heinrich reaches the chamber with the candy treasure and the sarcophagus. There's also some inscriptions nearby, and Heinrich starts to read the inscriptions about how placing the Blurpleberry Supreme onto the headpiece of King 2 Tons of Candy will allow one to claim the candy within the sarcophagus, or to control the sarcophagus. But there's also a warning about not sharing the candy, but Heinrich decides not to bother reading the rest of it. He doesn't think it's important. But before he can place the Blurpleberry Supreme into the headpiece, that's right, he put the headpiece on and he's about to put the candy jewel into the headpiece, number 5 makes her presence known and tries to stop Heinrich. She actually says what the rest of the inscription was a warning. The warning is, if you don't share the candy, then you'll only taste asparagus. Heinrich, however, accuses number 5 of planning to use the Blurpleberry Supreme for herself with regards to the tomb, and he's still angry about the Guatemala incident. Number 5, though, tries to convince Heinrich that the Guatemala incident isn't the way he thinks it went down, or what happened isn't how he thinks it went down. But Heinrich dismisses number 5 trying to reason with him, claiming that he will prove he is the best. So he places the Blurpleberry Supreme onto the headpiece, and this causes the candy within the sarcophagus to surround Heinrich. So Heinrich is now I guess the best way to describe it is Heinrich is now within a shell, or yeah, essentially the candy has formed into a candy mummy. That's the best way I can think to describe it. And Heinrich is within the candy mummy. That's, yeah, the best way I can think to describe it. So Heinrich, controlling the candy mummy from within, says that he will take all the candy for himself and not share it. But when he tries some of the candy, it tastes like asparagus, and he accuses Number 5 of doing something to tamper with the candy. Number 5, however, responds she warned Heinrich what would happen if he didn't share his candy. But Heinrich dismisses this and accuses Number 5 of tricking him, so he tries to chase after Number 5. After a brief chase, Number 5 uses the licorice whip that she took from one of Al Sugarh's minions to latch onto one of the pillars of the tomb so that she can swing on top of the headpiece and take the Blurpleberry Supreme out of the headpiece. This causes the candy mummy to change back into regular candy, and Heinrich becomes unconscious afterwards. Number 5 muses to herself about how some people are just unwilling to listen to her warnings about how good candy will become sour if it's taken in greed. And the next scene takes us to the Sector V treehouse, where we see that it's Number 1's birthday. The 3 other Sector V operatives are celebrating Number 1's birthday with him, and soon enough, Number 5 arrives. She apologizes for being late, but says that it's because she was picking up Number 1's gift. And yes, the Blurpleberry Supreme is Number 1's gift. Number 1, however, is not impressed. He claims that he likes cherry over Blurpleberry. Number 5 rolls up one of her sleeves and she grumbles about how she can't believe this. And the segment ends with Number 1 questioning what he said. And yeah, that's how we end this segment. So this segment, much like Operation Flavor from Season 2, is a Number 5 spotlight appearance that could also be seen as an affectionate parody or homage to the Indiana Jones movies. And this particular entry actually introduces Number 5's third arch enemy, Heinrich von Marzipan. And yes, he actually does go on to appear in the remaining seasons. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Heinrich has, well, actually in Season 4, Heinrich has 2 appearances, but I think for Season 5 and Season 6, he has 1 appearance per season for 5 and 6. He has 2 appearances in Season 4, at least. But yes, Heinrich von Marzipan is Number 5's third arch enemy, next to Sticky Beard and Cree Lincoln, aka Number 11. But yes, Heinrich actually does have his own storyline. I would say the storyline regarding Heinrich actually is probably the most prevalent storyline in the series that doesn't really focus on what most would consider the main storyline. Or like how each season might have like a storyline that it covers over the course of each season. Heinrich's is kind of like a background storyline that happens over the course of the upcoming seasons. So yeah, you could say Heinrich might not be, or that's a good way to describe it. Heinrich might not be the most important character within the grand scheme of the series itself, but his storyline is probably the most important storyline that doesn't involve the grand scheme of the series overall. And yes, Heinrich's storyline is definitely also the most important storyline that Number 5 is a part of. You could actually say Heinrich's storyline actually is what solidifies Number 5 as the second most important of the main characters, or the second most prevalent of the main characters. Because yes, the Sector V operatives would all be considered the main characters, although most fans would agree if you had to pick a single character as the main character, Number 1 would take the main character position. But Number 5 would be considered by many to be the second most important main character in the series, and Heinrich's storyline helps with that regard. And yes, with regards to the Guatemala incident and the bag of sacred golden caramels, or caramels, whichever pronunciation you prefer, yes, we actually do receive an answer about that, but that won't happen until the end of Heinrich's storyline. So for those of you who are just following along with the recap and thoughts videos, you'll have to be patient to find out the exact specifics of the Guatemala incident. But you can rest assured that there will be an answer to the Guatemala incident, or what specifically the Guatemala incident is all about. Now, the other big detail about this segment is this is the second segment to feature a Sector V operative's birthday. In this case, number 1 is the Sector V operative. Now, I did mention this in Operation Fast Food, but I remember back around the time when that segment first aired on TV, I remember Tom Warburton clarifying for fans that number 3 was actually 9 years old during Season 1 and the Season 2 segments before Operation Fast Food. So Operation Fast Food was number 3's 10th birthday, and I believe he clarified that number 3 was the youngest of the Sector V operatives. So yeah, I couldn't find that now, but I do remember seeing that. So number 1 would be 11 now. This would be number 1's 11th birthday. And from what I remember, Season 4 at least mentions another Sector another Sector V operative's birthday is at least mentioned in Season 4. I don't think they actually celebrate the birthday, but it's implied that the operative's birthday is coming up in Season 4. And from what I remember, 2 other Sector V operatives, they don't clarify when their birthdays are, at least not in the TV series itself. Maybe in the comic issues, but not in the TV series itself. So yeah, it's still not clear if... So number 1 might be the second youngest of the Sector V operatives. He might not. It kind of depends on the 2 other Sector V operatives whose birthdays aren't accounted for. So that's been a debate I've seen among some fans. Is number 1 the second youngest of the Sector V operatives, or is there an operative, is there an operative who's in the middle of number 1 and number 3 in terms of age? So yeah, that's a small debate that some fans have had. And otherwise, it was unfortunate. Number 1 did come off a bit ungrateful after we saw the trouble that number 5 went through to acquire the Blurpleberry Supreme. So number 1 did come off a little ungrateful, but at the end of the day, we know that they do patch things up eventually. We don't actually see how it happens, but they're on good terms again after this. And I guess you could say that's meant to be a reflection of how some people in real life, whether they're a kid, a teen, or an adult, can come off a bit ungrateful or not really understand the meaning of "it's the thought that counts." But yeah, so I know some people weren't happy with number 1's ungrateful response to the Blurpleberry Supreme, but at least it doesn't linger on in future entries. Otherwise, though, I do understand where number 5 was coming from about how some people just won't listen to reason whenever she tries to warn them for their own good. I can sympathize with that because I've tried to warn people against certain problematic behavior because I did have their best interests at heart, but they weren't willing to listen, and that's an unfortunate truth. You can try all you can to help others out and try to warn them against doing things that could cause serious problems for themselves and others, but it's up to the individual themselves to actually listen to your warnings and advice. And that's part of what Heinrich's storyline is all about, actually. Heinrich showed a never my fault mentality in this segment, and this carries on in his other appearances as well. And, we'll see how it all ends when Heinrich's storyline is finished. I don't want to give it away for those who don't know how Heinrich's storyline ends just yet, but you can be assured there is an answer to that eventually. So otherwise, yes, that's about it for this particular entry. This entry kickstarts Heinrich's storyline, and we also got to see number 1's birthday. So, yes, you can expect to see more of Heinrich in the future of the series. But otherwise, there we go for now. So, as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment of episode 36 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time,